Three keys to a comfortable win. Now, Oregon's got to do a lot of things right, of course, but most important one, number one, got to force turnovers here. And yeah, that goes along to say you got to win the turnover battle. But if Oregon turns over Illinois, you're going to put them in a spot that they haven't been in, particularly Luke Altmyer. So there once was a quarterback named Luke Altmyer at Illinois who, in a game against Penn State just one season ago, had 4 turnovers. That hasn't been this sort of guy. And the Illinois offense is much better because of it. But when I have talked about the game plan for Illinois going into this matchup, what I think it should be, what I think it will be for Brett Bielema and company, it's to be efficient. It is to use the clock. It is to keep Dylan Gabriel in the offense over on the sideline. If I'm Brett Bielema and I win the coin toss, I'm taking the football. And at the very least, I don't want Oregon to touch it until there's less than 10 minutes to go in the first quarter, ideally even less than that. Even if it's just a field goal. If I'm the Illini, I want a 6, 7, 8-minute drive. You turn Illinois over in this football game, and that thin line starts to become pretty fragile because playing that style, which can be done, and I think we saw Michigan do it a lot last year. I think we've seen great Stanford teams of the past employ the strategy really effectively. If you can run a game that efficiently and don't turn the football over, take advantage of your possessions, and even when you punt or settle for a field goal, you're able to use a lot of clock, you can just keep the game tight. Think first half Oregon State from earlier this year. They ran the football. They threw it a little. They were really good on third down. They converted a couple of fourth downs as well. They scored 2 touchdowns, and they went into the half, and they were only down by 8 points. And they weren't able to replicate that in the second half. And what happened? Oregon was able to get off the field. So, yeah, third, fourth down important, but Illinois has done such a good job keeping Luke Altmyer comfortable enough, getting the ball out of his hands, and not turning the football over. I think if you create turnovers in this game and get more quicker possessions or get the ball quicker back to your offense, I think that plays right into Oregon's hands. So that is key number 1. Key number 2, start fast. Illinois does not want to get into a track meet here. Pat Bryant and Zachary Franklin, those are capable guys. They're going to be a serious test for this Oregon secondary, not Ohio State level, and I thought they held themselves up pretty well in that football game. But certainly Ohio State got plenty of yards. Illinois should not sniff 30 points in this game. They shouldn't get over 20. Illinois went to Penn State earlier this year, only put up 7. I think Oregon is a better team and a better defense than Penn State. Penn State was at home. Oregon's here at home. I haven't given up 10 points because Luke Altmyer is capable. And, if Oregon gets a big lead, they can take their foot off the gas, put some second unit guys in there at the end and maybe give up, a field goal or a touchdown like they did against Michigan State. But when those starters are on the field, Illinois should have a tough time moving the football. And I think if Oregon gets off to a strong start, you put the pressure on Illinois to deviate from what I think their game plan is going to be. Because if you want to control the clock, what's the first thing you're going to do? Well, you're going to run the football. It is hard for any offensive coordinator. I don't care what team you're playing for. I don't care what level you are playing at. I have seen great rushing attacks at the FCS ranks, at the FBS ranks, Power 4, G5, all over the place. Get away from it when they start trailing. If Oregon comes out and scores the first 10 points of this game, I expect Illinois, or I suspect Illinois won't have as much of a desire to go to the run, and they might say, you know what, we just need Luke Altmyer to start making some plays. And I trust this Oregon defense to defend the pass in particular. And last week against Purdue, they weren't great against the run. Gave up over 200 yards on the ground, and then they stiffened once the Boilermakers got into the scoring area or anywhere close to it. That's not a great formula to repeat here against Illinois because I think Illinois is a better team than Purdue and has a greater ability to capitalize on those drives that have gone down the field and actually put some points on the board, whether that's making a field goal or going down and punching the ball into the end zone. I think for this Illinois team, they want to have some semblance of balance. Even though they haven't been the most productive offense this year, I think they're going to want to come out and at least be balanced. And if you push them to a 60-40, we have to pass because Oregon's up 14-3 or 10-0 or whatever it is early in this football game. I think you can get them out of that mindset of, hey, we want to run the ball. Hey, we want to do X, Y, and Z to kill the clock, reduce the number of possessions, because then they might run out of time. So I think those two things are really, really important. I know I talked about running the football earlier, but I'll get to my third key in just a sec. And not that I don't think it matters, but I think those are the top two keys. If you turn over Illinois and get extra possessions for your offense with maybe some really good field position, and if you start fast, Illinois is going to struggle to keep up. They are not built. It's not the identity of this Illinois team to compete in a track meet. It's just not. They want to slow it down a little bit. They want to play a little bit more of a balanced, grinded out sort of game. So I think if you do those things, you'll be just fine. Key number 3, though, for Oregon is one that I have had in their keys to the game before. I'm pretty sure I had it going into Purdue last week, but create explosives, because it feeds off of the second key I've got here, which is starting strong. And Oregon against Purdue, I was always confident Oregon was going to win the football game. But on the road, Oregon was able to take the crowd out of it pretty quickly. How? Chunk play to Evan Stewart. Takes the wind out of their sails a little bit. Now, Oregon's, of course, at home in this game, and I'm going to talk about the crowd a little bit more in the third segment too. But I think for Oregon, if you create those explosive plays and get the crowd into it at another level, pretty tough place to play. I have seen some, shall we say, misguided efforts on Twitter by Illinois accounts, fans, whoever. It's not a big stadium. It's not. Ohio State said the same thing. It's only 54, 60,000. I don't know how many people exactly are going to be there. Here's what I do know. It's going to be exceptionally loud. It's going to be hard to play. And you get the crowd into it if you create those explosives early. And one thing that I've talked about on the show this week, and I've heard a lot of other people discuss leading up to this game, is the team speed for Illinois is just not there. So if Oregon is able to avoid shooting themselves in the foot, with penalties or turnovers or sloppy play or anything like that, the explosive plays are going to be there. And once you do that, you can get the ball rolling. You can get the ball rolling, maybe make Luke Altmyer take a chance that he doesn't want to. And remember, this Oregon secondary and defensive line, and the linebackers are part of it too, but Oregon secondary has been really good. Defensive line has been great. I don't know. I know people are going to ask. I don't know if Jordan Burch is going to play. He's week to week. I expect to see him at some point this season. I feel confident saying that, but I don't know when exactly he's going to play. But the way that guys on the defensive line have stepped up in the last couple of weeks in his absence has been awesome to see. Tatum Tuiyoti's been active, but it's been the Derek Harmon, Mateo Uyunglele show. Those guys look like NFL players, and Mateo's just a true sophomore. Harmon's a junior, and at this rate, we're losing Harmon after the season, which stinks. But, I mean, are you going to be able to blame the guy? Because he is ridiculously disruptive. Pro Football Focus loves him, and Oregon fans should love him too. So I think if Oregon creates those explosive plays, gets the crowd into it, you're looking at a defense that's playing behind a hyped-up crowd who's rooting for the number one team in the country for the first time in 12 years. Who cares? We all probably care a little bit. Dan Lanning doesn't. He shouldn't. Love the answer. Love the answer. My guy Jared Mack taking a little bit of a stray, but it's a great response, and I think is a testament to the mindset that he's instilling in that locker room and why they can play to a standard rather than to the level of their opponent each week, and why I think Oregon wins this game 38-10. But this defense is yet to allow a 200-yard passer who doesn't play for Ohio State, that has one of the 3 to 5 best receiving corps in all of college football, and a veteran-capable quarterback in Will Howard. And Luke Altmyer is capable, and Pat Bryant and Zachary Franklin are solid. They're not those guys. So I think that if Oregon does those 3 things, they will be just fine. And even if they don't do those 3 things, they can still be fine. It just might be more uncomfortable than Oregon fans would like. But those keys to the game. You force turnovers, you start strong, you create explosives, Oregon's going to win big. You hit 2 of those keys, particularly the first 2, this game could be over by halftime. You go 0 for 3 on those keys, you let Illinois get a couple of long scoring drives, and the offense maybe doesn't execute, goes 3 and out. Hey, Illinois can hang around in this football game. Make no mistake about it. I like the Ducks 38-10.